I'm sorry, Harper, the lawyer said, not meeting my eyes. Your name, it's not in the will. I blinked, trying to process what I'd just heard. The Cherrywood conference room suddenly felt colder, smaller. My stepbrother Chase leaned back in his chair, smug. My stepsister Lauren was already on her phone, probably calculating how quickly she could sell the beach house that had just been left to her. He raised me, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Chase shrugged. He raised a lot of people. Doesn't mean he has to leave them everything. I didn't argue. I didn't scream or cry. I just sat there, quietly stunned, as the lawyer continued listing off the properties, the stocks, the antique cars. All going to them. Nothing for the girl who brought him his meds, helped him walk after his stroke, missed her prom to take him to physical therapy. Not a cent. I stared down at my hands, my fingernails digging into my palm. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of a tear. But something deep inside me shifted. Cold, steady, final. They thought they'd won. They didn't know what was coming. People think a blended family is like a sitcom. You know, quirky, chaotic, but everyone hugs it out at the end. That wasn't my reality. My name is Harper Grace Morgan, and I was 11 when my dad married Carla, a woman with 2 kids of her own, Chase and Lauren. I still remember the wedding day. I wore a sky blue dress that Dad said made my eyes shine like the sea. I clung to those words like a lifeline because they were rare. He was trying. At least then. But by the reception, things had already shifted. Carla kept introducing Lauren as her mini-me, and Chase was busy charming all the adults. I sat next to the cake, eating frosting with a spoon, waiting for someone to notice I was alone. They didn't. After the wedding, we moved into Carla's house. Not mine, not ours, hers. And that set the tone. Photos of her family stayed on every wall. My pictures were boxed up and never unpacked. My bedroom? The smallest one, and only because the basement had mold. Carla had rules. Harper, don't talk back. Harper, keep your voice down. Chase is a boy, he needs space. Lauren's sensitive. Don't upset her. I followed everyone. But it didn't matter. At birthdays, Chase got the newest tech. Lauren got spa days or shopping trips.
Me?
I got clothes on sale, or a shared gift from all of us, which usually meant something I never asked for, like a paint-by-number kit when I told everyone I liked music. I still remember my 13th birthday. Carla made a cake. Vanilla, Lauren's favorite. I hate vanilla, but I smiled and thanked her. Dad asked if I liked his gift, a journal. It was beautiful, leather-bound. But when I opened it, the first few pages were already written in. It was Carla's old one, reused. I nodded. It's perfect. When Chase broke a lamp, I got blamed. When Lauren flunked her math quiz, I was scolded for not helping her more. When the dog peed in Carla's office, I got grounded for forgetting to walk him, even though Lauren had walked him last. The pattern became predictable. I became the helper, the fixer, the scapegoat. I cooked dinner by 15. Ran errands after school. Helped Carla with taxes. Wrote Chase's college applications. Taught Lauren how to drive. I was everyone's invisible glue. But I was never anyone's priority. At school, I was quiet. I kept my head down, got straight A's. My teachers liked me, but no one really knew me. I didn't go to parties. I didn't date. I couldn't risk disappointing anyone at home. One afternoon, when I was 16, Carla had a headache. She was laying on the couch, and Dad was out of town for work. Lauren came home crying because she didn't get picked for cheer captain. Chase was yelling about a scratch on his car. I made dinner, folded laundry, cleaned up the dog's mess, and helped Lauren rewrite her campaign speech. Then I sat in the hallway and just existed. No one thanked me. No one noticed. And that was the night I realized something painful. I could disappear, and no one would blink. College was my way out, kind of. I got into UCLA on a partial scholarship. Carla said, maybe don't go too far. Chase might need help moving into his dorm. Dad asked, how will you pay for the rest of the tuition? I didn't say it aloud, but I thought, the same way I've done everything else on my own. I worked 2 jobs. Waitress at a diner. tutored freshman English. Lived in a tiny apartment with a leaky ceiling and broken heater. Chase? He went to Stanford. Full ride? Nope. Full parental funding. Brand new car. Monthly allowance.
Lauren got the same when she started at NYU.
Meanwhile, I counted pennies before buying textbooks. Still, I called home every week. Sent birthday cards. Bought Carla flowers on Mother's Day. When Dad had his first heart scare, I flew home the next morning. Lauren said she was too busy with exams. Chase was traveling. I stayed by his hospital bed for 3 nights. He looked up once and said, "Thanks for being here, Harper." I cried in the hallway. Not because he said something profound, but because he finally saw me. After Dad's recovery, I visited every break. Helped him manage his meds, adjusted his diet, took him to therapy. Chase showed up for photo ops. Lauren took selfies and left early. I stayed. I always stayed. And when Dad got sick again, cancer, this time I moved home completely. I cooked, cleaned, managed appointments. The house became my prison, and I willingly chained myself to it because it was my father. He told me once, "If anything happens, everything will be fair." I've made sure of it. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. So when the will was read and my name wasn't even mentioned, not once, not in passing, not even as a gesture, it didn't just hurt. It shattered something. Because no matter how much I gave, it was never enough. And deep down, a voice inside whispered, maybe they never saw you as one of them at all. After the will reading, I stayed seated even after the others got up, giddy with new property deeds and legal paperwork they didn't earn. Chase slapped the lawyer's back and said something about renovating the Aspen cabin. Lauren was already asking if she could transfer the stocks into her trust.
No one looked at me.
Not Carla. Not my father's wife, the woman I cooked for, ran errands for, defended when her migraines kicked in. The lawyer glanced at me with what I can only describe as bureaucratic pity. "Harper, if you have any questions." "I don't," I said, standing up. My chair scraped against the wood floor, the only sound that acknowledged my presence in that entire room. On the way out, Carla stopped me. He didn't mean to leave you out." I stared at her. It wasn't an accident. She flinched. "You know how complicated blended families are." "No," I said softly. "I know exactly how this family works." She sighed. "Don't make this ugly. You're better than that." It was a twist of the knife, wrapped in silk. That was Carla's gift, emotional manipulation dressed in politeness. I walked out without another word. The next few days were a blur. I didn't speak to anyone. I stayed in the guest room of a friend's house, someone from college who offered their spare couch, until you figure out what's next. Meanwhile, Lauren posted Instagram stories. Camera with flash, just inherited the Malibu view. #blessed, Dad loved us so much. And Chase? He posted a picture of him popping champagne beside a Tesla with the caption, "Speech balloon, old man came through. Time to ride." It was vile. And yet, somehow, no one called them out. I received a single message from a cousin, Tessa, the only family member who ever treated me kindly.
"Tessa.
I'm so sorry, Harper. I didn't know he didn't include you. That's not right. You were the one who was always there." I didn't respond. What was there to say? Then 3 days later, Carla called. I didn't pick up. She called again. Then texted.
"Carla.
I think we should have a conversation."
"Carla.
Don't disappear, Harper. That's not mature."
"Carla.
We all loved him. Don't make this about money." That last one made my stomach churn. Don't make this about money. As if I cared about the real estate. As if I hadn't given up years of my life, my youth, my independence to serve this man who was too weak to challenge his wife and too blind to see his own daughter's worth. I stared at my phone for hours. At first, I wanted to scream. But slowly, I realized I didn't feel angry. I felt free. Because something inside me, something that had been waiting like a child at the window for a parent who never showed up, finally died. And with that, something else began to grow. Resolve. 2 days later, Lauren sent me a group message. The nerve. Lauren. Hey fam, thinking we do a family weekend at the Malibu place to honor Dad.
Wine, food, peace.
Harper, you're welcome if you want, no pressure. Face blowing a kiss. I read that message 10 times. Welcome? As if she had the authority to offer me a space that should have been part mine?
The audacity.
I typed one sentence. Honestly, I'd rather not be anywhere I'm not wanted. Then deleted it. Because
I didn't owe them that.
I didn't owe them anything anymore. I turned off my phone. I packed my bags. And I left town. But not before one last message came through.
Chase.
If you show up to Malibu, just know we're not going to open the door. There it was. The final slap. Disguised as a warning. As if I'd ever begged to enter a house built on my exclusion. And still I didn't reply. Because something had shifted in me that day at the will reading. I wasn't Harper the helper anymore. I wasn't Harper the afterthought. I was done. Done waiting. Done earning. Done giving. They had erased me from their version of the family. They just didn't know. I was already writing a different story. And this time, I was the one holding the pen. I didn't announce my exit. There were no dramatic posts, no tearful calls, no pleas for understanding. I simply disappeared. I booked a one-way flight to Seattle, where an old roommate had a spare room above her flower shop. Rent was cheap. Rain fell often. And no one knew my name. For the first time in my life, I could breathe without waiting for someone to call my name just to assign me another task. I got a job waiting tables at a tiny cafe in Pike Place. Nothing glamorous. But every latte I served felt like a quiet act of defiance. Because I wasn't serving them anymore. I was serving me. I stopped sending holiday cards. I didn't call on birthdays. I removed myself from the family group chat. And not out of anger. Out of peace. That group had never been mine anyway. I had just been hanging on, like a guest overstaying her welcome in her own home. I deleted the recurring payment I'd been sending Carla every month, the one labeled groceries that had quietly covered everything from their dog food to Lauren's skincare. I removed their birthdays from my calendar. I unsubscribed from their updates. I unfollowed them on social media. But I didn't block them. Blocking felt too loud. Silence was louder. They noticed, of course. It started small. Carla left a voicemail after Thanksgiving. We missed you. Hope everything's okay. Lauren made your favorite green bean casserole. I almost laughed. I hate green beans. Then Chase messaged. You ghosting us? That's cold. Especially after everything Dad did for you. What did he mean by everything? Letting me wipe his father's mouth while he posted pool selfies? I didn't respond. Then came the message that revealed what they really missed.
Carla.
Harper, the property tax bill came in for the old house.
Can you help?
I know you usually handle this. That was it. Not, how are you? Not, I'm sorry we hurt you. Just, can you still do what you always did, quietly behind the scenes? That's when I opened my notes app and typed 3 words. This is over. I didn't send it. I didn't need to. I just started living. I signed up for night classes in nonprofit management, something I had always dreamed of but never dared to pursue because I was too busy holding everyone else up. My professor, Dr. Ellis, noticed me immediately. You write like someone who's lived 100 lives, he said after reading my first assignment. I smiled. Just one. But it felt longer than most. At the cafe, I began managing weekend events. Poetry nights, fundraisers, local artist exhibitions. Word spread. People remembered my name. Not because I chased their approval, but because I showed up with quiet strength. One afternoon, an elderly woman slipped on the sidewalk outside the shop. I ran out, helped her up, cleaned the blood from her palms, and called her daughter. I sat with her for 40 minutes until help arrived. You remind me of someone, she said, squeezing my hand. Someone people forget until they need her. I smiled. I knew exactly what she meant. But now, I wasn't waiting to be needed. I was just being. Weeks turned into months. The silence from my stepfamily stretched on. And the longer it did, the clearer things became. They didn't reach out because they missed me. They reached out when they needed me. Once I stopped fulfilling their needs, I ceased to exist. But I existed to me. I planted lavender on the windowsill. I painted my room in warm golds and soft creams. I hung up a single photo of myself at age 9, a time before it all got so complicated. She looked like she still believed in magic. I was building a life so full of small joys that it didn't have room for bitterness. Then, on a random Tuesday, I received a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a folded sheet of thick stationery. In careful cursive it read, "I don't know if you remember me, but you helped my mother 2 years ago. You were the girl who carried her grocery bags, walked her up 3 flights of stairs, and left a note that said, 'You're not alone.' She passed away last month. She kept your note until the end. Thank you for making her feel seen. Ava Green." I sat there, holding that letter, tears blurring the ink. Someone remembered. Not because I was convenient, not because I was tied to them by blood or marriage, but because I was kind. And suddenly I knew, all that time I spent giving, helping, serving, it wasn't wasted. It simply wasn't meant for the people I gave it to. Now, it was meant for me. 2 years later, I stood on the stage at the Forbes Women in Tech Gala, my name beaming in gold letters across the screen behind me. Harper Lane, CEO of Sable Systems, AI Innovator of the Year. The applause was deafening. Flashes from cameras lit the ballroom, but none of that mattered as much as the email I'd received that morning. The one from the bank confirming the final acquisition of Criminal Estates, the crown jewel property Chase had inherited and lost when he defaulted on the mortgage trying to keep up his lavish lifestyle. Poetic, really. I stepped up to the mic, smiled, and spoke clearly. I'd like to dedicate this award to the people who told me I wasn't worth investing in. To the family who overlooked me. Because, without your doubt, I might have never believed in myself. It wasn't petty. It was precise. And it felt divine. After the gala, I rode in the back of my Tesla with my assistant Mara beside me. She opened my tablet. "Harper, here's the list of properties we've acquired this quarter, and here's the email from Lauren." I leaned in. Lauren had reached out through the contact form on our company's website, practically begging for a job. "I know we haven't spoken in a while, but things have been rough. I've admired your work from afar and would love the chance to join your team in any capacity." It was desperate. Beautifully desperate. I didn't reply. Instead, I instructed Mara to forward her application straight to HR and include the note I'd personally written. "Dear Lauren, thank you for your interest. At this time, we are prioritizing candidates who uplift others, not those who once crushed them. All the best. Harper Lane." Chase, on the other hand, had sold the last of his watches online. His luxury car had been repossessed. I knew this because the dealership was owned by one of my investors who sent me the security footage of him arguing at the lot. He hadn't recognized me at the gala I hosted in Manhattan 6 months ago, not until I walked past him, surrounded by tech legends, and someone called out, "Harper Lane. She's revolutionizing the industry." His jaw had dropped. I hadn't even glanced his way. The girl they erased from the will now owned their inheritance. Not just metaphorically, I owned the land, the companies, the legacy. I got the last laugh. And it echoed everywhere they turned. Looking back, I don't regret a single moment of the rejection, the silence, the loneliness. Because without it, I would have never discovered the power of building something on my own. Without it, I wouldn't have learned how to turn pain into fuel and loss into vision. What my step-siblings never understood was that you can inherit wealth, but you can't inherit character. You can be handed privilege, but not purpose. They thought I was invisible because I didn't beg, because I didn't scream when I was left out, because I didn't fight for crumbs at their golden table. What they didn't realize was, I was busy building my own. Brick by brick. Sleepless night by sleepless night. Not for revenge, but for myself. So to anyone who's ever been the extra in their own family, the quiet one, the overlooked one, the black sheep, let me tell you something, you are not powerless. You don't need their validation. You don't need their table. You are your own inheritance. You are the legacy. Let them underestimate you. Let them write you out of the story. Because when you rise, and you will, your success will speak louder than their favoritism ever could. I never got the apology. And honestly, I don't need it. Their consequences are enough. Watching me soar while they scramble is more satisfying than any hollow "I'm sorry." But that's not the real win. The real win is that I love my life now. I wake up every morning knowing I created it with my own hands, my own mind, my own heart. The real win is peace. Freedom. Power that comes not from someone else's approval, but from your own alignment. So yes, they got everything. But I got the last laugh. And I earned every second of it. It's been 5 years since the last family dinner. I don't even flinch when I hear their names now. Their lives? Stagnant. Caught in lawsuits, mismanaged trusts, and desperate attempts to maintain appearances. Mine? Expanding. The bakery I started from my tiny studio is now a chain, 10 locations across the state. I've hired young girls like me, the ones with nothing but hunger and heart. I see them, and I pour into them the way no one ever poured into me. A few months ago, I was invited to speak at a women's leadership conference. My name was printed in bold, my photo at the center of the banner. Guess who showed up in the audience? All 3 of my step-siblings. Front row. No applause. Just silence.
And me?
I smiled. I spoke. I soared. Because in the end, the story they tried to erase became the one the world couldn't ignore. I didn't just survive. I became unforgettable.